He's in critical condition, Tom. I talked to his mom and they asked for their privacy. The man who hit her son, Fry, still has a valid driver's license from Georgia with close to half a dozen DUIs. Show-stopping performances today. I'm so impressed. Right now on stage, we have our final contestant, Gordon Richards, to close the curtain for our contest tonight. This little guy is Sunny D. He's an albino ball python. Jen Dubberly says when the detectives found the snakes, they were pretty scared to touch them, kind of like my photographer, Sluggo. They called Jen and said, "You come get the snakes. We left them right where we found them." Joy, this story is developing by the minute. What we know right now is 2 suspects, both 16 years old, are in custody, charged with shooting and killing a clerk in the head in St. Augustine at about 2 o'clock today. The suspect's car is right behind me, a black Jeep Grand Cherokee. Putnam County Sheriff's deputies have arrested 11 people wanted on drug charges. They call it Operation Heatwave. A total of 20 arrest warrants charge people with narcotic law violations. 19 of the suspects have been charged with violating Florida statutes. 1 was federally indicted for the distribution of a controlled substance. 9 people are still wanted. We've put the information on our website, news4jax.com. If you recognize any of these people or their names on the list, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers. Well, it's official. Former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley is running for president. O'Malley announced his candidacy before a crowd of supporters in Baltimore yesterday. The former governor is now in the running for the same job as his friend, Hillary Clinton. My favorite event since, I don't know when, 4,000 people experienced the slide of their lives yesterday, measuring up 1,000 feet. Actually, you can hear me screaming. Like,
is that really you?
Yeah, I had the GoPro in my head. It's one of the world's largest slip and slides called the Urban Slide, and it travels all over the United States, even Canada. But this weekend, the slide is at Jacksonville's St. John's Cathedral off East Church Street. Yay! And if you don't get a good running start, they have people with basically these straps that will pull you along the way.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, it was
so you're going to
really
have
fun.
a good ride even if you're not the best at the start then.
Definitely.
Good.
It's worth going to. You're never too old to slip and slide.
A federal judge denied bond to a Jacksonville woman indicted on sex trafficking charges. The judge considers 46-year-old Estella Clark a flight risk because she often travels to Mexico. That's where the Department of Justice says she smuggled a young woman into the United States in 2012 on the pretense that she would be paid as a surrogate mother. Prosecutors say Clark also forced the young woman to have sex with strangers. Channel 4's Hailey Winslow joins us now live in the studio with more information on this disturbing case. Hailey.
Tarek, it definitely is disturbing. Prosecutors say Clark, who lived on the Arlington Expressway, isolated the young woman and confiscated her identification. Over the course of 2 years in Jacksonville and Missouri, they say Clark attempted various non-medical inseminations of the woman, who was not identified in the indictment, using a household syringe on the dining room floor, and her boyfriend and others' semen. When those efforts failed, they say Clark forced her to have sex with complete strangers. The Department of Justice says they were trying to impregnate the woman so they could sell her baby. A different local young woman had the courage to share her story with me today about how a man sucked her into the sex trade and what she hopes for this victim and others still suffering in it. 5 years ago, Alyssa Beck's life was very dark. The then 15-year-old went to the Jacksonville streets searching for love and acceptance, and was kidnapped into the sex trade.
I was the person that people came to. They had a rough day at work, or they were just having a rough whatever, and they took it out on me, whether they wanted to hit me, whether they wanted to have sex, whatever they wanted to do, that's what I had to do.
Months went by and Beck begged her captive to kill her, until one day.
We got to the hotel and he had to go in and get a room key, and when he did, I ran. I ran as fast as I could down Arlington Expressway, beaten, broken, bruised, and hopped into some bushes and got found by somebody.
She now works for Rethreaded, a Jacksonville nonprofit that offers viable work to women affected by prostitution, pornography, drug addiction, and human trafficking. This warehouse on Barnett Street in Newtown is where women who have escaped the sex trade can learn how to sew, like these necklaces, these grace scarves on the wall, and these headbands. It gives women employment and freedom and allows them to sew a new story.
I believe that it takes a community of people to get a woman into the sex trade and keep her, but then it takes a community of people to get her out and pave the way for freedom.
Jacksonville attorney Mike Freed also helps combat human trafficking, where he says Florida often ranks second in the nation. He says it's more prevalent in Jacksonville because of the city's proximity to highways, ports, borders, and airports. But cases often go unreported. Prosecutors say the young woman Clark kidnapped lost 65 pounds. She was constantly beaten, hit one time with a metal stick until the stick bent, and she was a prime target.
In this case, obviously someone that's here illegally and feeling very vulnerable because they don't speak the language and they're afraid of being deported, and so they participate in activities against their will, and they don't have ready access to, or at least they don't feel like they have ready access to law enforcement or to someone to help get them out of that situation.
Fortunately, a friend at Celebration Church called police and very well may have saved her life.
Honestly, it's not really surprising. I've seen stuff like it before, and it's sad, and I just hope that woman can find peace.
Attorney General Pam Bondi convened a meeting today on the statewide Council on Human Trafficking. The council she heads includes law enforcement officers, legislators, prosecutors, and experts in health, education, and social services who collaborate in an effort to stop human trafficking cases like these two. Tarek.
Thanks, Haley.